Let's just record another video. Yeah, this was a question from YouTube, and we tried to record it last week, but then the audio thing was like not working out for us. So I'm just gonna do it again about airbrush thinning, airbrush paint thinning actually, which is a great subject because it's one of the most common common question about airbrushing, and it's really if you get into it, it's kind of the main skill, right? Like people, oh, airbrush is easy to you press a button, paint go. Thinning your paint is kind of the one thing you have to learn, because that to some extent it is kind of easy. There's a lot of things that are made easy by an airbrush, but thinning paint is the part that you actually have to work at and get good, because because it's it's tricky, because it's tricky. There's no right or there's a lot of wrong. I'm sorry, but there's no fixed way is what I meant to say. Meaning, if I take this, let's say I want to thin down this little matte white here. This is old, but let's say I want to thin down this one, and then I want to thin down another army paint, or the black one. These require a different amount. So it's not like one drop of this for 3 drops of thinner. As a rule of thumb, maybe this one is two a piece, and then this one is like 4 drops of thinner for 1 drop of paint. And then, so they behave completely differently. There's no one size fits all. And if I were to go to the store and buy another pot of like matte black, if it was from a different batch, most likely the same mix would not work. It would be a mix close, but the exact same mix would produce different results. That is why it is so frustrating. It's because there's no one size fits all of do this, it will work. Not like that. And that's, I feel like a lot of YouTube videos maybe sell this a little bit short, whereas, oh yeah, it's super easy. And then you can go this other route of like, oh, I'll get these airbrush ready paints like this. But then that kind of also has like a little shortcoming, which means this is gonna work fine like 90% of the time. But if this paint is too thin for what you're trying to do, you are shit out of luck. Because what you're gonna do? Put more paint? It's already too thin. Put as much as you want, still too thin. And if it's too thick, well, you still need to learn how to thin it down. So you're kind of like, again, shit out of luck. If you didn't learn to thin it down, well, running into the same problem with these. So these will get you a long way, and these can like kind of speed up this process, or at least they give you a good baseline, because most of these work fine, but some of them, they do require a little bit of work. The Vallejo makes them, but for the most part, like learning to thin down paint is kind of the tricky part about airbrushing. And so it's the thing you have to kind of work on, you have to get good. So I'll give you a couple of pointers. That's how I start everybody that comes to me and want to learn to airbrush. When I give classes and stuff, that's how I start everybody. So the first thing that you want to get is transparent little shots, little shot glasses of like clear plastic. You can crush them. Transparent is the key here, because you can mix you mix your little thing in that little shot glass, a little something like this, and then you can see what you're doing. So you're not dumping out paint right into an airbrush ready to clog it, okay? So you put it down there, and then you do your little mixy thingy, and then you go, oh, okay, this how does that look? So you have all your mix outside of your airbrush. You're not putting anything down there that should not be there. And then same thing if you have like clogs or whatever, like a little dabs of paint, like, so all that like crust. Well, this one's like terrible, but if you go like a little bit too much, or you press a little bit too hard, and then it all goes into your airbrush, that's like terrible, because getting that out is like, ugh, it's a nightmare. I would not wish that on anybody. So seeing what you do outside of the airbrush is kind of a really good starting point until until you literally get good. This is a really good trick, because then you just put it in something transparent that you can see, and then you just pour it into the airbrush when it's fine and ready. Second trick is, when you're learning, too thin is much better than too thick, because too thick, it will jam all of that, and then you'll learn the hard way how to clean, how to dismantle, and what went wrong. Too thin is going to still spray. So when it comes out to cleaning, it's much easier to unmess up. Okay, so if you're unsure when you're beginning, just go a little bit on the thinner side than on the thicker side. Okay, and then third thing is, if you don't know what you're doing, pick brown. brown as the sweetest, as the largest sweet spot of like workable. I cannot really explain why, but brown works all the time in an airbrush. It is a magical color. I don't care what you paint, it just works. So brown is one of the easier color to get right for some mysterious. I don't know the science behind it. It just is. So now I'll tell you the thinning process. What I do a lot of the time is when I get a brand new pot of paint. This one's pretty new. It's not new, but it's pretty close. I open it up and then I fill it up to the brim, almost like up to here, basically, with thinner. I do that with every single pot that I buy. So this one, I don't think it's got any, so I'll do the same thing. And my thinner is window cleaner. We'll talk about that later. So I'll fill it up to here, and then close that down, and then give it a good shake. Oops. Again, every pot is different. This is a good base. Okay. So this is how I use most paints. If I pull a paint from my rack over there, like any of them, almost all of them, they start their life like this. This is the way it's gonna be right now. Let's see if I can show you guys correctly. It's gonna be like super thin, but it's gonna be usable by a brush, and maybe a little bit too thick for the airbrush. But almost all my paint pots are exactly in this state because they're usable by brush and they're already kind of pre-thinned down. So I like that a lot, and I do this almost all the time. And then you need to add more a little bit. So you see, I used that blue before. So usually a good trick here is to start with thinner in your airbrush. You can try it out if it's been a while that you've used it. Ooh, this guy's working. So a little bit of thinner, the fact that you have thinner in there kind of helps you, because that means if you dump paint in there, you're not pushing paint that's too thick down the bottom of the airbrush to begin with, right? So we'll just put a little bit. We'll give this a shake just to see how it is. And then I'll explain. One of the things that is the stupidest thing from the internet is paint should be like milk. You should thin paint so that it is the consistency of milk, and that is the stupidest thing ever in the universe of airbrushing. It is stupid because everybody that has been on the internet and Googled once how to thin airbrush paint has read that sentence, and then people just keep on repeating that sentence since forever, since the dawn of time. And it's my favorite because it means nothing and most people say it and cannot explain it. So I love this. The reality is, if you thin it like milk, it is going to be too thin for what most people want out of airbrushing. You know, when you have like a glass of milk, I'm sorry, this is not a glass, but if you shake it around a little bit, what comes out like on the side and how it like kind of falls down like slowly into your glass, that's what it means, okay? But the reality is this consistency for like base coats and a bunch of highlights and stuff, or primer, is way too thin. So you don't want to do that. But you know, if you Google it, like if you Google it right now, that's what is going to show up for sure. So let's see this one here. So usually what will happen is I will shoot, and there's going to be a little bit of only thinner because that's what's in the thing. And then we'll get the actual mix. And then just like that, you know, we got a good blue. And then let's try it on the. Well, we have the Dead Guard proof from the previous video. Let's just see, you know, how does that end up. This is unprimed and whatnot. I mean, pretty solid. And you see, and this is like far from milk. Like I'm almost sideways and it's not pulling out, and it's dripping down very, very slowly from the cup. So, and this is a really good consistency because it's almost dry immediately. So I really like this. I think this is like a very happy medium, just to show you guys in the if I'm to, this is what we're spraying right now. So that's kind of the consistency that we got going on. Like even when I shake it, it's not going everywhere like, you know, like milk. And then let's talk about thinner. So when it comes to thinner and then thinning down paint, I'll tell you a little secret, which is called to each their own. And that's probably the thing that the thing that the internet gets the most wrong after the milk thing is my experience with airbrush and your experience with the airbrush and Johnny Two Time from the internet's experience with the airbrush is going to be different, and the uses that we make and then what you like is going to be different. So when it comes to thinning down paint, you can look at a bunch of things, but don't change every time. If you find some way that works for you, stick with that. No matter what Johnny Two Time says, or no matter what I say, if you've been airbrushing, you don't have a problem with like thinning down and cleaning, stick to what you're doing. I like window cleaner, okay, glass cleaner like this. This is the store brand, like the cheapest thing. It's like $2.99 for 950 milliliters. It is incredibly cheap. That's like an old pirate tricks. I learned that like ages ago. It worked for me. I've never changed. I taught that to a couple of people, and then they did not like it, and they started using, you know, real like Liquitex thinner. Liquitex is a really good brand for this. Because again, you can buy it in large quantities. Some people use water, like the guy that makes the Badger airbrush. He swears by water only. He never uses anything else, and that's his thing. Or rarely use anything else. That's his thing. So I use glass cleaner for everything from cleaning to thinning down paints. That's my thing. And then I strongly suggest that you try that one or try whatever other method you like you want. And if it works for you, if you don't have problems and everything, stick with that. Whoever like YouTube thing or tutorial or whatever you're watching, if they do something different, don't bother. If it works for you, stick with it. So we got the airbrush. So, well, it was a good day to wear pants, I tell you that much.